Welcome, everybody. Today is Thursday, February 16th, 2023. It's 3:02 p.m. and I'd like to call the meeting to order.
Be it resolved that the Township of Greater Madawaska calls to order the February 16, 2023 regular council meeting at 3:02 p.m.
Thank you. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Tripp, second by Councillor Popke.
And next is O'Canada.
All in favor, yes. Sorry, we missed that spot. Internet's slow today. So am I.
And then we have O'Canada.
Okay.
Next, we have the land acknowledgement. As we gather in chambers, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of council and our community that we are meeting on unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Next, we have 1.02.4 additions, deletions, excused. That the agenda of council meeting of February 16, 2023 be approved as amended. Addition 9.02.2 federal electoral boundaries, 9.02.3 Greater Madawaska Public Library and Learning Center CEO report, and 6.02.2 bylaw 16-2023 fire services.
Do we have a mover? Councillor Levesque, second Councillor Popke. All in favor? Motion carried.
Minutes, 2.02.1. Be it resolved, the following minutes are approved by council. January 19th, 2023 regular council meeting, January 31st, 2023 special council meeting, February 9th, 2023 public hearing.
Do we have a mover? Councillor Thompson, second Councillor Tripp. All in favor? And it's passed.
Declaration.
Declaration of any pecuniary interest or in general or nature thereof. None seen.
Next is 4.02.1 Eagles Nest parking policy. I believe our facilities manager is on, joining us via Zoom.
Hello, yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Turn my video on because it's a little bit kicking in and out with the internet. So, yeah, so if you like me, I can read over the memo to you so everybody can hear what's going on with the, for why we were wanting to put in a policy in place. So in July of 2022, honk parking system was installed at the Eagles Nest parking lot. And since the start of the system, the township has received feedback regarding pay for parking, such as usage charge for residents and frequent users, which resulted in adding an annual parking pass. So most recently, Tim Urrington has submitted a letter to the township requesting fees be waived when utilizing the Eagle Nest parking lot to perform continuous ceremonies. For many years, Indigenous people have used the Eagle's Nest site for ceremonies and spiritual teachings. So currently the township does not have a policy to waive fees. Staff will draft a policy for council consideration and will provide clear direction in addressing special circumstances such as volunteer trail system maintenance, indigenous ceremonies, and educational programs. That's what we've, with this memo, we're just wanting to let you know that we want to take this back, make a policy for the parking lot. So when other things come up, we have a system for our staff to use to go to give answers and to people when they have those questions or when they want to have parking passes waived.
So to summarize, a policy will be brought forward to council in March on this matter.
Okay. Question? Councilor Lebec?
It's not specifically related to that the previous one about the annual parking pass for residents. I'm not familiar with it, so can you elaborate on that?
Leonard, would you like to speak to the annual parking pass?
Oh yeah, so what we do is when somebody, they can go on the system online and they can put in for a pass. So whatever date they put the pass in for the $20 for a season, that allows them, their license plate then goes on the system. So anytime they're at that site in the parking lot, their license plate is registered on the enforcement bylaw. So then they won't be ticketed. So until the date, then when the whole year passes by, they have to renew that at that date and then continue with their free pass for the year.
Thank you, Leonard. Second question, are we planning to expand that across the township for other areas like boat launches and whatnot?
We haven't given consideration. This was our pilot project to see how well it worked. So we're not even a year into the project. Once we are a little further along and done a complete year, because I believe this was implemented in July or August. And once we've done a complete year, then we're going to assess if it merits being installed in other locations.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? None seen?
So there's no reports or memos from the Public Works Department, which is item 5. Item 6 is for Protection Services Department. 6.02.1 is emergency management. This is a discussion item. So I've been in contact with the field officer for emergency management regarding training, and they've revamped their training, and they are going to be holding a training session now called the Senior and Elected Official Workshop. And they intend to use a regional approach. So there will probably be a training opportunity within Renfrew County. They're thinking probably Pembroke, but it's yet to be solidified. So we would also like to do training on emergency management at a local level. So would council like to have training at the local level prior to the regional or vice versa? And I don't need an answer today, but if you could give it consideration and provide me with an email on your preference, that'd be appreciated.
And the training is for?
Emergency management.
No, for who though? What's the audience?
So the audience, so the one for the, from the province, I'm not sure who is invited to that. The one for locally is for everyone, just so that council's aware of what is involved in emergency management and to provide provide a further explanation on documents we have with pertaining to emergency management that are not available to the public.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Whether we'd like to do the county one first or the local?
Just send me an email, it's fine.
Just send you an email, okay.
Next item is 6.02.2 bylaw 16-2023 fire services. This was an addition to the agenda. So it's come to my attention after a lot of discussion with our fire chief that we need to have some support with our fire department for the inspection services. I've been in contact with some of our neighbors. Renfrew does have a full-time fire department, and they have agreed to enter into an agreement for this service. The agreement is a little open that you'll see, and other services should we need them. So if there's additional administrative services that we do require or such, then the CAO from Renfrew and I can come to an agreement and see what we can work out. So I apologize for the late notice, but it was I was trying last week, it just wasn't coming together.
I guess we should move her first.
Questions?
Any questions? Yep.
Thank you. So I went through it. It looks really good. And this is more of an administrative question, but I noticed our option to back out is 120 days or to council. Is that the same timeline that we had when we negotiated the agreement on planning and other agreements?
Yes.
Perfect. Just want to make sure we're consistent.
Yeah, so that is consistent.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? None? Do we have a mover for this? Councillor Thompson, second. Councillor Tripp. All in favor? It's unanimous. Motion passed.
The next item, we're moving to Planning Department, 7.02.1, Building Permit Report, January 1st, 2023 to January 31st, 2023.
This, our planner, Eric, could you enlighten us, please?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I guess if you look at just by the numbers, a slower January value-wise, but in terms of permits, obviously we had some pretty big permits last year. We only had 2 of them, and they were worth about 700,000. So probably new builds, and we've had a number of smaller ones. So we'll see. Again, as mentioned, it's 2023 is a year that we're going to see if the activity we've had the last couple of years holds, or if there's a bit of recoil there. But if there are any questions, try to answer them. Thank you.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
7.2.2, Building Permit Historical Trend Activity. So this is a document that council asked staff to prepare to show the trend with regard to building permits over the last, or since 2008. I believe we were asked for 5 years, but we had the information, so we just provided it. So hopefully we continue on the upward swing.
I'm just trying to, or I think we're all trying to open, our internet's a little. Yeah, if you could summarize perhaps, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, not a problem at all. So as the CAO noted, essentially, I think this is just fundamentally the same in most municipalities, probably across the province, actually. You know, people have been kind of stuck at home since the pandemic started, and when you get stuck at home, you start thinking about projects and whatnot. So those projects clearly were executed over, 2021, 2022. We've also had, some new residences, new builds, that kind of thing. So I think if you look at the chart, like, it's a pretty clear trend, right? So we've been kind of flat, I can say flat or consistent between 10 and $15 million a year. And then all of a sudden we're doing 32 million a year from 2021 and 2022. So we will see what happens in 2023.
Yeah. Any questions, comments, concerns? None seen.
7.02.3 Special Events Permit, Calabogie Motorsport Park. The council approves the following special events be held at Calabogie Motorsport Park in 2023. Vintage Road Racing Association, Friday, June 30th to Sunday, July 2nd, 2023. Canadian Sport Compact Series, Saturday, August 12th to Sunday, August 13th, 2023. The Calabogie Summer Classic, Friday, August 18th to Sunday, August 20th. 2023.
Any questions, comments, concerns? No, and it is noted in here that staff will be on scene for those, for noise testing, for decibel testing, and that I believe that there's a special event permit has I think it's a 65 decibels from 45 decibels as regular. Anything else on that matter? Nope.
There's another event coming, so there will be a report we got a late application, so we'll be on the March agenda.
Okay, they're allowed 4
Yes.
special events per year, I believe. Okay, thank you.
Mover.
Do we need a mover on this one, please? Councillor Popke, second by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? It's unanimous.
7.02.4 bylaw 11-2023 zoning bylaw amendment 2306.1 Republic of Pakistan. That council approve a bylaw 11-2023 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 22-2023 as amended to rezone parts of the land located in part of lots 18 concession 3 geographic township of Bagot from rural to rural exception 50 to recognize access over an existing private lane driveway.
Eric, please.
Yeah, thank you. I won't spend too much time on this. Kind of described it in detail at the public meeting. Essentially, this is required as a condition of consent approval to permit access to the newly severed lot to the west. If there are any questions, I can answer them. Thanks.
Any questions, concerns, comments on this? This was addressed at the public meeting, correct? Yes. Okay, do we have a mover? Councillor Levesque, second Councillor Tripp. All in favor? Unanimous? Passed?
7.02.5 bylaw 12-2023 zoning bylaw amendment to lift holding symbol TOTH. That council passes bylaw 12-2023 to lift the holding symbol applied to the lands located in part of lot 8 concession 9 geographic township of Bagot.
Eric, please.
Yes, thank you, and through you, Mayor Weir. So this is again been discussed at the public meeting, so I won't get too far into it, and it's actually just relatively straightforward. There's a holding symbol on the property placed last year. The condition of holding is the submission of hydrogeological evaluation. The applicant has done that, so now we can go ahead and remove the holding symbol. Answer any questions if there are any. Thanks.
Any questions, concerns? None seen? Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke? I'm gonna get your name right yet today. Councillor Popke, and second by Councillor Thompson. Thank you. All in favor? It's unanimous.
We're moving to finance and administration. The council appoints the following to the Madawaska Street Committee: Sharon Pierce, Luke Goulet, Deb Giffen, Christopher Marla, Sherry Cameron, Leo Mulvihill, Chris Fleming, and Kirk Viberker.
Any questions, comments?
Yeah, were these people vetted for having any interests in keeping a dock or not keeping a dock?
So yes, as part of the recruitment or as part of the application process, they were asked if they resided on the street and if they were in favor or in opposition to the docks remaining. So that was taken into consideration. So yes, that was vetted.
And I'll just add to that too, that there's an equal number of for, against, and indifferent on the committee, so that there's a good cross-section of opinions and views and the spectrum on it. So it's weighted that way, so that open and frank discussions can take place. Any other questions? Councillor Levesque?
So the process for selection, just curious on how and who made the choices. And the second part would be, there's a second.
I recognize I missed the second part.
Okay, and I was just curious
Yeah.
about that as well.
So the information was gathered by staff and then provided to me. So I went through and did the analysis to see, who's in favor, who's opposed, if they reside on the street, if there's multiple representation from one residence, if there's, so all those various components. I did speak with Mayor Weir regarding this. He did request that he be sit on this committee. So to Councillor Levesque's comment, I can reread the motion that is before council, which is that council appoints the following to the Madawaska Street Docks Committee: Sharon Pierce, Luke Gillette, Deb Giffen, Christopher Merla, Sherry Cameron, Leo Mulvihill, Chris Fleming, Kurt Vibacker. Furthermore, that council appoints Mayor Weir as a council representative to the Madawaska Street Docks Committee.
Just a second part to that question. Is it typical that staff would make that selection and recommendation to council?
Yes,
Is that for all committees or just this one?
it's normally for all committees.
Councillor Tripp?
Thank you. How many people, first question, how many people applied?
11.
And we have 1, 2, 3,
Eight.
8. So the other 3 were either duplicate residents? Okay. It would be helpful to know a little more of the demographics, because it's just a list of names, because we were asking for people during the campaign. This was a very sensitive issue, and I think we are all in agreement that we want to have that equal representation. But the bulk of the decision were the people on the street. So we had a mixture, but I'm not sure, because we're new to this, who is actually on the street. I'm seeing 1, 2.
Well, and we have to be careful with that, because that is personal information that I cannot disclose in a public forum due to privacy.
So if I can continue my question, I would think that if we have, and maybe it's a process, as Councillor Levesque said, but it's difficult to have a slate of names when we don't know who applied or how many applied. And in this case, I mean, the 11, it would, maybe these are things on sensitive issues, because this committee is one that is sensitive. It would have been helpful to have a little bit more information, because I feel we're making a bit of a blind jump on something that we ended up in a lot of discourse on at the beginning because of due process. I think, I mean, I'm not saying I'm against the list, I'm against the process with how this was done.
Was there a motion to take this into an in-camera session? We have to announce prior to going in camera, so to have it registered.
So I think it would be, if I can maybe have, it may be better to defer this item so I can have discussions with those that are concerned about the process to further understand, so that the report can be adjusted to provide the information that council is looking for.
Councillor Tripp, supplementary?
Thank you. If I may, I would agree, and I appreciate that effort, because I think this is just about communication, and I don't think that this is something that would be helpful to take in camera. I think we could have the discussions offline to get better informed of the people, and then bring it back to a public forum, because I think this is something that's so sensitive in our ward and in the township that it should be dealt with in transparency and through this venue here. But appreciate the CAO's offer to sit with us outside of council and then come back next month. Thank you.
So, but I just want to clarify for council and for anyone watching, is that it's not that I'm going to meet with council as a whole offline. It's only individual members of council who have concerns with the process will contact me to have individual discussions, so that any changes will be incorporated into the report.
Is that understood by also the individual consultation with Allison? We will not be meeting as a group. We won't have quorum, and it will not be reflected that way, and not in a private setting. It would be brought.
So my question would be, if all of us are interested in it, and there's various discussions back and forth, this is where we get into a
absolutely.
scenario where it may be a discussion scenario of all of us.
So if I am contacted by 3 or more, then I will not have any meetings. I will ask the mayor to have a special council meeting to address this.
Okay.
In a open forum.
Okay. And just as an add-on to that, is it worthwhile to also ask about the remaining, the coming forward committees that are going to be voted on or whatever, so that we can understand, because if it is all committees in general versus just this one, or is it because I know myself, it's good to understand how the committee selections are made, and particularly with the upcoming agenda item.
So if I'm understanding correctly, so later in the agenda is recommendations about committees and creating terms of reference. So when those terms of reference, provided what's presented is approved, if those terms of reference do come forward in March, that they also are accompanied with the application that will be sent, available on our website, so council can see what the process is, as well as how the process for selecting the respective members.
Yes, and before that, it'd be nice to have a discussion around that,
Okay.
how that actually happens.
Okay.
So an explanation of how it currently works,
Yeah.
how it's traditionally worked, and
Okay.
also an opportunity to adjust if we want to adjust. Because that's, I mean, how committees get formed, it's going to be for the term. I think it's, rather than just voting on the names that have been proposed, it'd be good to see behind the scenes of who all was applied and how the selection was made. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to, how are we going to word this then?
So I believe the motion that is on the table has been requested, instead of being carried, be deferred until March 16th, 2023. So I need a mover and a seconder on that.
Councillor Levesque and Councillor Tripp, all in favor for this being deferred to
March 16th.
March 16th? All in favor? Motion carried.
And I believe the next motion is that council requests the CAO to prepare a report on how committees are formed today and in the future.
And that will include terms of reference?
The terms of reference will be separate.
Okay. Do we have a mover for that motion? Does everybody understand the motion? Councillor Levesque, and second by Councillor Popke. All in favor? It's unanimous. Motion carried.
Okay. So the next item is 8.02.2 committee structure, that council instructs staff to prepare the terms of reference for the following committees: Recreation Advisory Committee, Inclusivity Advisory Committee, and Economic Development and Communications Advisory Committee.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Thompson?
Yes, I'm wondering about during the election and on the survey, there was a huge concern about planning and development. And staff is recommending or saying that we have a department for planning, so we don't need a committee. My question is, will that department have the capacity to do things like planning subdivisions on the neighborhood level, to find grants for having public engagement on issues like wildlife corridors, to do all those things? Or do we need a committee to do that?
So I may ask our resident planner to speak to that, but I believe with regard to having studies, any studies that are required or requested, that is done through the application process, so that if there is a species at risk concern, that a study is completed as the creation of is as part of the application. But if Eric could provide more insight on that.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Weir. So yeah, council is empowered to do anything that a planning committee would be doing. So, typically, the way it happens in most municipalities that have planning advisory committees is that matters go first to the planning advisory committee, and then a recommendation comes from the advisory committee and goes to council. So, and then certainly an option, one way to do things. And typically there are at least some members of council on a planning advisory committee. But there is no, yes, there's no requirement to have a standing planning advisory committee, you know, strictly speaking. The preparation and review of reports is done at the staff level, and we bring in whatever technical expertise that's required in the form of like peer reviews or anything like that for like engineering reports. That we don't have in-house engineering staff, but we would get those kinds of things peer reviewed. In terms of long-range planning, so I mean, we would look to council for ultimately anything that comes out of the planning advisory committee has to go to council for essentially ratification and direction. So strictly speaking, committees can't direct staff, so it has to come to council. I guess one of the purposes of having a planning advisory committee is if, council feels like it's a way for them to kind of take the temperature of the community in terms of on planning issues. The other way of doing that kind of on an application by application basis is through the public meeting process. And we've kind of done that on larger projects, like, we're in the town of Renfrew, we're going to be doing an official plan review. We're going to be doing a couple secondary plan projects over the course of the next couple of years. We're going to have so the mayor has struck a task force that meets kind of not on a regular basis, but infrequently, kind of as needed. And it's more informal. We don't take minutes or anything like that, but it's just kind of, it's again, just getting feedback on things and, in terms of things we should be doing, in the community or, that council should consider doing. And so we're doing that, and it's kind of on for that one, it's on an invitation basis. So the mayor is inviting, and it's generally people that are like in the business community or that have expressed specific interest or what have you. So that's kind of the way that we're doing it in Renfrew. And then we also have an economic development, planning and tourism committee. That's a standing committee of council, and there's 3 members of council on that committee. And so the task force will report up through the standing committee and then the council. But again, the task force it's more of an informal thing. They're not making decisions. They're not necessarily saying what council should be doing, but they provide ideas, and the committee kind of considers it and kind of goes up back through council. So that's how we're doing it. And I guess on a project specific basis, you can establish steering committees. For like an official plan review, like we'll have a technical steering committee, but you can also, strike like a public steering committee for larger projects like that. So it's really, there's a few different ways you can approach it. In terms of,
sorry, but if I may interject for a second, is we only have a planner currently 2.5 days a week or 2 days a week. Mm-hmm. So if we're going to form a committee that's going to eat into his time, thereby further delaying applications and projects, because he does have to attend, we're already being pushed on applications that, we need to be more timely, we need to be more responsive. So while it may be something to look at if and when we get a full-time planner, but I think given the current situation, it doesn't make sense when the planning department is doing their best to keep up.
I think that's a fair comment. There is aside from just the function of the committees, there is obviously an administrative, kind of a demand on the resources administratively. You do have to coordinate. It can be difficult to get quorum. Sometimes folks can't make it. The nice thing about having a standing committee of council is that you've all signed up for this for 4 years and we got you. and we know where to find you, and it's a little easier to get quorum that way. But and we have had, there are, I haven't had specific experience with, too much with planning committees with the township here, but, just in my experience on other committees, that has sometimes an issue. And there's obviously just the coordination and the training element and things that are not impossible or insurmountable, but obviously a consideration for sure.
Thank you. I think it should be noted, Mr. Councilor Tripp, I'll get to you in one sec. I'd just like to make note that this council took a different approach to setting up committees than normal. We reached out for engagement of the community, and out of the community of 4,925 people, 127 people responded. So we had less than 3% or 2.57% of the community actually engaged in this. And part of your package as well is some of the comments, or a list of comments in there. So I think what I'm trying to say is we've reached out, and even within the comments, there was not as many about planning or anything in it as well. So, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that was the type of response we got, unfortunately. Councilor Tripp.
Thank you, Mayor Weir. I was going to raise that part of my observation was with such a low response, it's 2.5%, which in my experience is the lowest I've ever seen in terms of a response out to a general public. That said, within that 2.5%, when we look at Planning and Development Advisory Committee and asking them to rank, it came in as one of the highest. Well, amongst the 3-4 high ones, it was certainly the highest. So even though it's a small survey, it was the one that showed the highest interest in moving forward with. Also on the campaign trail, we heard clearly that development was a concern. Now we recognize that it's different to hear it on the doorstep and in a hall and then have people step forward to actually put the time into work. Not everyone has that opportunity and luxury. But I do think that planning and development is worthy of consideration of a discussion past this meeting. I do agree with what our planner has said in terms of the moving parts and the structures that are there, albeit informal. But an interesting point, and then to our CAO's comment about, we're going through change with our planner. We have a planner for 2.5 days. That may change, which would give us more opportunity. But could we, if we move forward with the 3 that we're talking, that doesn't preclude us to come back and adding these on in a few months or in the summer, because this has been a fire hose of information coming to a new council, and we are working quickly and hard to get up to speed. And the worst thing is to make a decision based on what we feel is right in our gut versus taking the time to do a really well-based, evidence-based decision. So my question through that narrative is, can we, if we don't go for this today, can we bring this up during our tenure or our term to bring the committee in? Thank you.
Absolutely. There's nothing to preclude council from doing that. And even further to that, we can look at preparing a memo to council that outlines various options with regard to a planning and development committee. Our planner did highlight some of the options that are available, such as a standing committee of council, a committee with members of the public on it. So there's a number of different options available that council can consider. But I am very concerned that if we're going to take time from our planning department at this time, when we only have a planner 2 days a week, is going to be to the detriment of those needing his assistance.
Supplemental, Councilor Levesque.
So just to add to that, can we propose the trigger point for us to come back would be when the full-time planning position would be evident? So
what I would actually do is I would ask the junior planner to prepare a memo to outline the various options so that we're in a position to know which option we are most interested in proceeding with, so that once we have the position filled and is not their first day, that we can bring this back for further discussion and to move forward.
So just bringing it back, so yes, we can add other committees going forward. This is not written in stone that these are the only three, but they're the three we're talking about today. So that would be the Recreational Advisory Committee, the Inclusivity Advisory Committee, and the Economic Development and Communications Advisory Committee. And so if we could move forward on those three, and with the understanding that when it becomes necessary, or when we have the bandwidth, that we can add committees. Any questions or comments on my, Councilor Beck?
One on one that I proposed a while ago, which was about heritage tourism and trails, because back to the election stuff, there was lots of discussion around all of that. And I'm trying to recall what the survey said, but it wasn't evident there.
So the heritage was quite low, but I think, so I have been looking at other municipalities to see what they have for terms of reference. And there is, I agree with you, we do need to have, heritage needs to be incorporated. There are a number of municipalities have heritage grouped in with recreation. It's like a recreation, cultural heritage. So that's where I see it fitting in quite well. And if there's a specific project that needs to be undertaken, I can see that committee forming an ad hoc committee, just like zone in on that specific topic. So that's what I'm proposing, is that when the terms of reference come forward, there will be reference to heritage under that umbrella.
And do you see tourism as part of the economic development piece?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Thompson?
I suggest maybe heritage should be part of the planning committee's mandate, because we have to identify heritage areas as part of, to build the plan. You know, so it could be two committees, but I think it really falls under the planning.
So I think it can fall under a number of different spots. So there are a few topics that can touch on different committees depending on what the scope is. So if it's to promote our heritage, or to highlight a heritage site such as Barrett Chute, Eagle's Nest, that would fall under the recreation, heritage, and culture, as opposed to protecting our heritage or our heritage sites. I agree with you, that would fall under the planning. So I think depending on what the scope of heritage is would determine what committee would fall under. And I think when we agree on terms of reference, that's where we can get coverage within those committees. Councillor Tripp?
Just to that, when you were starting to draft the terms of reference, it may be helpful on all committees, both the three that we're looking at today, but either ad hoc or other committees are coming forward. We put in a caveat in the terms of reference that they liaise and work with other existing committees, so that things like heritage may impact on inclusivity, it may impact on seniors, it could impact on tourism and economic development, but we keep that communication, that we don't end up with a number of silos that are operating independent of each other. If we put that into the fabric of the terms of reference, it's going to provide the effort for them to chat among the silos.
And further to that point, that's part of the role of staff attending the committees, is to ensure that if there is overlap or the same thing being done, is to raise that point, or to suggest that a joint meeting be held among the committees so that they can further discuss or investigate the issue.
I think too, we have to also realize and hope that we, when we do form these committees, that we get more than 2.5% interest in them. So that's a hurdle we'll have to get over. Supplemental?
Just one more question, Allison, because I know we've discussed it about the Calabogie market, both for summer and winter. Because of the timing, I'm just concerned, and I don't know what's happening in the background, who's working on what and so on. So I'm just curious if you have an update on that, or if you see that falling into place.
So there has been someone from the community come in to speak with our deputy clerk. So they're working with her to see what can be accomplished for this year. So once I know something more concrete, then I will let council know.
Okay, thank you.
Perhaps you could read that again. It's been quite a while since you first read that, and before we make a motion or on it.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
this is a result of the committee survey, is that council instructs staff to prepare terms of reference for the following committees: Recreation Advisory Committee, Inclusivity Advisory Committee, Economic Development and Communication Advisory Committee.
Do we have a mover? Counselor Thompson, second by Counselor Levesque. All in favor? Unanimous, passed. Thank you very much.
So moving on to 8.02.3, Mission, Vision, and Priorities for 2023. The council approves the mission statement for 2023 as follows: to provide an inclusive, engaged, and safe community for all residents, businesses, and visitors. May I suggest that we read one at a time, and then I can read it in its entirety at the end so that we can focus on. So I'll just, I'll apologize, I'll read that again. So it's to provide an inclusive, engaged, and safe community for all residents, business, and visitors. There's no questions with regard to the mission? Okay. And so after the discussion of the last council meeting, I felt that council thought it should be two, that we should have a mission and a vision. So the vision reads: to provide services in a cost-effective and transparent manner to encourage sustainable and future growth, and to continue to improve infrastructure based on the comprehensive asset management plan. Sorry.
You skipped over successful when you read it out.
To provide services in a cost-effective, transparent manner to encourage a sustainable, future successful growth, and continue to improve infrastructure based on the comprehensive asset management plan. Questions, Councillor Tripp?
It's good, so more of a statement first, but the last sentence, improve infrastructure based on a comprehensive asset management plan. I wonder if we could look at wording that would give us some wiggle room past, it looks like we're building it just on our asset management plan. A word, and I'm blocking it now because I'm not thinking that mindset,
what if it were just to be removed, to improve infrastructure?
Perfect.
And that it's not based on any specific plan or?
I mean, it still allows us flexibility if we're building it on a future opportunity that comes in the next 2 or 3 months or 6 months or a year.
Yeah, it says continue to improve infrastructure, and not just based on asset management, it's based on many variables and so on. So we'll take it to the rest of the council to ask if we would like to take out based on comprehensive asset management plan and just end it at continue to improve infrastructure. Councillor Thompson?
A comprehensive asset management plan should encompass all of those variables. Not that there won't be surprises, but I don't know what else. I mean, just improve infrastructure sounds like a pie in the sky thing. Everybody says they want to do that, but based on a plan that we can then say, this is why your road will be done in 2025, but not in,
So maybe we can have
have
our treasurer explain what a comprehensive asset management plan is, because it does not necessarily include everything.
Yeah, I think it's more relating to current infrastructure versus future infrastructure. So I think that's where you're leaning on is and future successful growth and continue to improve infrastructure. It's almost like based off, it includes the growth, which is almost like development charge projects and asset management plan. But when we only say asset management plan, it only says basically maintaining our current assets, but not actually future assets.
Thank you. Councillor Tripp?
I still like just the improved infrastructure. And I understand the rationale in the conversation from Councillor Thompson on the importance of the asset management plan being in there, but it is, I feel it is limiting, and I think having heard from our treasurer that the vision statement is really something that's short, light, and aspirational. It doesn't get into the weeds. That's as we go down through this document, we'll see the expansion. Plus, undertaking strategic planning, which is coming up in the agenda, we'd like to start with something that I think is open enough to give us flexibility and clearly articulate that of which we want to do, which is their vision, not how we're going to do it.
Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, I agree with that now, having heard from
Thank you.
others.
And the last component of this motion is with regard to the priorities, and they're as follows: create and support sustainable development, service delivery review, effective governance, community infrastructure. And that's it. So if there's any comments or concerns.
Just looking at those four there, and then just going back to our committees as well. Community infrastructure, service delivery. I think it covers it and covers off with what we just did in what the three first committees that we've started. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
So I will read the motion. Is that council approves the mission statement for 2023 as follows: to provide an inclusive, engaged, and safe community for all residents, businesses, and visitors. And furthermore, that council approves the vision statement as to provide in a cost-effective and transparent manner to encourage sustainable and future successful growth and to continue to improve infrastructure. And furthermore, that council approves the priorities as follows: create and support sustainable development, service delivery review, effective governance, and community infrastructure.
Do we have a mover?
I think you skipped over a word again. To provide services. I think you missed services. Just,
No.
Okay. Maybe I misheard. Okay.
Do we have a mover? Councillor Levesque, Councillor Popke second. All in favor? Unanimous, motion carried.
Item 8.02.4, policy 2-30 hours of work and policy 2-51 alternative work arrangements. The council approves the revised policy 2-30 hours of work and policy 2-51 alternative work arrangement as presented. So the policies that are before council, 2-30, the hours of work, that's removing the alternative work options that currently exist. And the new policy is to allow the public, staff, and council to see what's being proposed on a standalone basis, so that they only have to look at one document. It's not embedded in or other documents. So this is a slightly different from what we are currently offering. We need to become more progressive if we want to attract people. I know we have some positions that are currently available, and this was one of the first questions they had, is what alternative work options do you have available? Because if it was none, they were done. That's where the discussion would end. So I don't know if there's any questions or concerns with what is being presented, but there'd be no change to the service levels that currently exist. There is an opportunity to enhance, depending on staff's availability for compressed work weeks. But, and this is in line with what a session that Councillor Tripp and I attended when we went to Roma last month.
Any questions, concerns, comments? Councillor Levesque?
So just to clarify, because I honestly haven't gone through it in fine detail, but obviously it's just for administration, not for like any frontline staff, for instance, or anybody who's working on the roads or any.
No, this is for everyone. Everyone that has a job that they're able to do. So
Like over online.
So what we've done in the past in our public works and our facilities, they do compressed work weeks during the summer months, because longer hours, they can work on our capital projects, they don't have to move machinery, so it's more effective. So, and for our frontline staff, we have a backup for every frontline staff. So They may flex so that one Friday they have off and the next Friday the other one is off. So it depends on the position. So there absolutely are positions can't do certain types of alternative work arrangements, but for the most part, there's an option to some degree.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, well, just to clarify, so how will this be monitored and put out? So on an individual basis?
Yes.
Per employee?
So the manager, so if a staff person has an idea, they can take it to their manager. If the manager thinks it's warranted, that will be discussed at our management meetings that we have once a month to see if there's an effect to another department. Because we are so small, there are instances where staff do provide assistance to other departments. So we would work through those kinks and see if we are able to allow that to transpire. We've had flexing and compressed work weeks for probably 10 years. So, and staff, it's becoming more and more the focus of staff. So they make it work. If there are issues or if there's a concern of, we are not going to have anyone on the staff in the office on Friday, they're quick to find a solution to address that.
Councillor Tripp, supplemental?
Thank you. Just to reinforce, one of the unintended positive consequences of such a proposal is when staff are covering for other staff, they're picking up new skills, they're seeing a different side of the operation of the municipality. And it was a discussion during the Roma conference that was very strong in that people who were not pigeonholed, but people who had a very specific job set would have an opportunity through this model to get a taste. And it made the organization stronger across the board, but it really helped energize the staff. So it's not just, I mean, it's about the economics, it's about making sure we're covered and retention of staff, but even in terms of the motivation of staff, it's a very powerful tool. And there were 3 or 4 mayors that spoke to that during the conference on the success that they had in terms of upward mobility in areas that they didn't think would happen just because people had shifted jobs to support somebody who was on a compressed period. Very powerful program.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? None seen. Do we have a mover for this? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Levesque. All in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you, Council. Next, we have bylaw 13-2023 employee remuneration. The Council repeal bylaw 09-2022 being a bylaw to provide for the remuneration of employees of the municipality. And furthermore, that Council approved bylaw 13-2023 being a bylaw to provide for the remuneration of employees for the municipality. And furthermore, that Council approves the revised compensation grid as presented effective January 1st, 2023. And furthermore, the council authorizes the retroactive payment to January 1st, 2023. So council may recall that in the fall, the treasurer did bring forward a compensation grid for 2023 that was with regard to the cost of living increase. Since then, and at that time, we highlighted the fact that there were positions that needed to be assessed to ensure we were competitive in the market. We knew there were some concerns with the county making changes in 2023 to wages for certain positions. So as a result of that, the treasurer did some analysis, which is included in the report, that shows the market average for various positions in comparison to our current and proposed levels of pay. So again, if we have wonderful staff and we want to retain them, so if this is being put forward to council for consideration, this has been incorporated into the budget that our treasurer is presenting later. So there would be no additional increase in the tax levy that has been proposed. She was very conservative in some of her revenues, so she was able to find the extra funds needed within the existing parameters. So I don't know if there's any questions of council on that.
Councillor Levesque?
I'm not familiar with the Kellogg system, so just curious, is that a municipality thing? Is that what other municipalities in the area do?
Yeah, so there's two methods, and I can't remember the other method that is used, but we have used Kellogg's now for a number of years. We, at one point, the county of Renfrew did our pay equity, and that's the method that they use. And we just continued on with that method when the analysis was done 2 years ago now. That's the method that they continue, the consultant continued to use. And it's not serial.
They're great. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? None seen. Do we have a mover? Councillor Tripp, second by Councillor Popke. All in favor? It's unanimous.
8.02.6, Manager of Planning and Development, that council instructs the CAO as following: to write a letter to the town of Renfrew that Greater Madawaska will be advertising for a full-time planner, and when the position of Manager of Planning and Development has been filled, formal notice will be provided to the town of Renfrew to cease the shared service agreement, and advertise for the Manager of Planning and Development with the job description as presented.
Any questions, concerns, comments? No? Do we have a mover? Councillor Levesque, second by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? Unanimous.
And 8.02.7, the council approved bylaw 14-2023 being a bylaw to adopt the 2023 operating capital budget estimates.
Yeah, so back in January, on January 12th, I had presented the draft budget for the township, which excluded additions for the library. On January 31st, we came back to council with the library presenting their asks, and the township providing to council the implications of the ask, which would be a municipal tax rate increase of 6.68%. At this time, council directed the treasurer, myself, to come back to council for this meeting to provide the final 2023 budget. Also, conversations at that time were regarding the job evaluation piece, which was just approved. So since then, I have went in our budget, reviewed a few items. So in regards to the operating, the levy being presented is the same as presented on January 31st. There were, at the time when reviewing, there was adjustments for the mandatory benefits. This is, we're talking about our benefits like Manulife and our pension with Homers. So I made adjustments in certain departments that were just slightly understated. With that said, there's been adjustments made to revenues. So as the CEO just mentioned, tend to be a bit more conservative with some of these revenues coming, specifically from the planning side, development. These are, you could see growth stages at 21, 2022 were the first years that we've really grown. I tend to be a bit more conservative on those, but with that said, we've adjusted based off of the last few years and closer to trending. This allowed us to not make adjustments to the tax rate as presented January 31st, while making the adjustments as we discussed on the 31st and in regards to the job evaluation. Additionally, when we did receive an update from JB2G for a capital budget, there is a well installation and repair, which we had included as capital for 10,000. And the result of it is stating that it's going to be 30,000. This is an additional 20,000. This offered us the opportunity to budget for it properly at this time versus coming back when the project's in play and capital budget is approved. This additional 20,000 is being funded as an adjustment through the reserve fund. So, and other than that, those are the only adjustments. At this point, I did update the residential tax rate comparator just to demonstrate the table. I think it's really important to highlight where we sit right now compared to our neighbors, considering in this graph, our neighbors, actually, these are their 2022 rates. So it does not include their 2023 rates, which I believe are in the range of 5 to 7%. So I think will be similar to before by the end of this. Other than that, as it's for discussion.
Okay, any questions, comments, or concerns? None seen? Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke, second. Councillor Thompson, all in favor? Unanimous, motion passed.
The next item on agenda is 9.02.1 is the Denby Griffith Lions Club letter of request. So before council is a request for funds of $1,000 to provide some entertainment at their annual car show in August. This is a very successful event they've had for a number of years. I recognize there's no motion before council. We have done things similar to this in the past. Last year, the year before, we did provide some funding to Madawaska Hall for some recreation. So what I have prepared a motion that council approves the request for $1,000 to the Denby Griffith Lions Club with the understanding this is not an annual commitment. And furthermore, upon the recreation position being filled, a policy be developed to address supporting service groups in the township.
All in favor? I mean, sorry, motion first? Oh, questions, concerns?
I'm a little concerned because this is a service group that is supposed to be putting on events in order to raise funds for the municipality, and I'm wondering why they're asking the municipality for funds. I can see it for other community events, like something at the DACA Center, Canada Day, but I'm just wondering why a charity is asking for money from the township. It doesn't make sense to me.
I'm unaware whether the Denby Griffith Lions Club is a registered charity or not, but I do not believe they are, nor is the Calabogie Lions Club a registered charity.
I thought that was in their mandate.
No.
So they raise money as a charity, don't they?
So they raise money to service the community.
Yeah.
So they're trying to expand their event to have something for children. And they're asking, instead of digging in, my understanding is instead of using their funds that they would give to the community, they're asking for the township to partner with them on this event to make it more inclusive.
Still doesn't make sense to me. I mean, they put on events to raise money. I know it's just a bouncy castle, it's just $1,000, but I just don't get why they need money from the township.
Yes, Councillor Tripp.
In a number of events that we've put on in Ward 1, which was for the greater Madawaska Township, like Canada Day, for example, these events are usually a partnership between a number of people. So if their role is to make money, they will seek out sponsorship or partnerships to offset some of their costs. So in this case, the Bouncy Castle, if they're bringing people in to host an event, and it's around the cars, but they want a Bouncy Castle for the youth or the kids, sponsorship or partnership is usually the way that it's done. And it's been very successful here. On Canada Day, for example, we have support. We support it through the municipal budget, but there is also a number of other agencies and groups like the Lions Club that come in, industry that come in, a number of local businesses to come in to offset some of the costs, like the Bouncy Castle. I would suggest they might not have that level of infrastructure at this time, so that they're coming to us to provide that level of support for an activity, not money going into an open fund It's into a specific line item within their activity budget. And as our CAO said, you know, if we do land on a recreation purpose individual going forward, this is something they can look at in terms of helping. And very valid point that it's not an ongoing commitment. This is a one-time decision. But these models are used extensively to support community initiatives.
Just to add a caveat to that too, I think over the last few years, any the Lions Club, the Rotary clubs, any of those clubs have had very, very limited attendance and support. So I think their means right now, and understanding that all those community groups end up giving back to the community that they serve, whether that be with walkers, wheelchairs, or assisting with cost of heating for people as well. So I think that they may be limited at this present time. Just over the last few years, they probably weren't able to have open meetings and having events to supplement to their assistance on assisting the community. Councilor Tripp?
My last comment, I think it's also an important message to be supporting in that community, because there are very few opportunities where we as council or we as a municipality can come into these other wards and provide support and services. We're always looking for opportunities to outreach, and I think this is a very valid way for us to come in and show that you know, we're supportive of activities that they want to run in that ward.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Could you read the motion again, please?
With my hands, I'll try. The council approves the request for $1,000 to the Denby Griffith Lions Club with the understanding this is not an annual commitment, and furthermore, upon the recreation position being filled, a policy be developed to address supporting service groups in the township.
Do we have a mover? Councilor Tripp, seconder. Councilor Levesque. All in favor? All opposed? 4-1, motion carried.
Next, we have 9.02.2, the federal electoral boundaries. So that we did circulate a press release on Monday about this item. So we are remaining within the electoral boundary of newly named Algonquin, Renfrew, Pembroke. So this is a very, very good news. I just wanted to council and the public to recognize the efforts that went in and the short timelines that were involved, that we weren't notified until August 26th, and we had to have a written submission in by September 23rd. So it's very quick turnaround, but you know, we were able, with the support of various agencies, Cheryl Gallant, MP, Scott Reed, MP, County of Renfrew, our neighboring municipalities, also providing support in opposition of this proposal. So this is very good news. And
I'd just like to add, I'd like to thank the previous council and Mayor Hunt for jumping on this so quickly, and the staff for putting everything together and getting out to the community, and the community itself for all the signatures that were obtained and the support for this. So I just want to make it known that and thank everybody for jumping on this right away. I think it's very important that we're tied to Renfrew. We're very tied to them in whether it be our hospitals, our shopping, or our post office for people from Griffith and Mount St. Pat and Pat. So I think it's very important that we stay tied with the Renfrew County. Thank you.
Next, we have 9.02.3, Greater Madawaska Public Library and Learning Center CEO Report, February 8th, 2023.
So I'll be delivering it on behalf of Ruth, as I'm on the committee, on the board. The library is really working at doing outreach, and it's already starting. Well, it started before I got on. And so they were part of the winter carnival celebrations in Calabogie. They had blind date with a book. So you pick up a book that's wrapped in brown paper, read it, and then come back with a book report. Family Day packages go out to all wards. I think it might just be Griffith Madawaska in Ward 3 and Ward 1, February 20th. So packages for kids, there's games, reading, science, all kinds of things. So that's available in both wards. And a book bingo for adults and children, which you read books and fill in dots and you end up winning something. So it's all encouraging people to read and read more. As well, they're going to be coming to Ward 3 to the firefighters pancake breakfast. So they'll have a table up with kids games, same thing they did, or I think there was a firefighter breakfast in Calabogie. Yeah, so it'll be the same thing as they did there, but in Ward 3. So they have kids games and whatnot. So this is all done. I mean, there are things coming up as well, but all done while they were preparing the budget and very concentrating very much on that. So I'm just happy to report that they're doing stuff. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? No. Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
So we'll move to the delegation section. This has been moved down on the agenda, is normally at the beginning of our session, but there's two presentations by Eorn. One is in open and there's one in closed for confidentiality reasons. So we have with us Jason St. Pierre from Eorn, who's going to come and make a presentation. Jason was with someone else previously, so I had to read where he was from so I didn't get confused. So Jason, if you'd like to come to the center.
And sorry, just for anybody on the YouTube watching, Eastern Ontario Regional Network, the acronym is EORN. So just to clarify what that is. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, we hope he's going to connect to the Zoom meeting, so. All right, let's see if I can. You know what, I'm not connected to anything in here, I don't think.
Kind of ironic.
Actually, I won't tell you guys where I'm connected right now.
So sorry for anyone watching, we're just having a little technical difficulty. We will have the presentation up momentarily.
My, how things have changed since last time I was here, I tell you. Yes, cameras everywhere now, the desks rearranged. It's been a while. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity in the Eastern Ontario Regional Network to join you today. We have been taking the opportunities to bring some updates to our member municipalities, and we appreciate the time here today. As Alison mentioned, if you go back far enough in some of the old minute meetings, my name may come back up again under a different role. I have been in this position for about 7 months now. So I started in July with the Eastern Ontario Regional Network. Previous to that, I was with Bell Canada for 24 years and was really involved in this area with a lot of the broadband expansion back in probably 2010 and 11 with Icon, where we placed some nodes down by the peaks, and then after that into the Eastern Ontario Regional Network project. So excited to be here to see the evolution of this program and this project, and to keep my commitment that I made years ago that we would not forget about the area and that we would eventually see broadband expansion go through. Unfortunately, it has taken longer than I anticipated, but we continue to push. So maybe with that, if we can into the agenda here. So just quick agenda, just the two for today. We're just going to go through the cell gap project, which is what we are working on from the Eastern Ontario Regional Network, and then time for questions at the end. As a project overview, because I think there's probably a number of new faces who may not be fully aware of what the cell gap project is. I'll bring you up to speed on that. If there's any questions at any time, please, if you're comfortable with it, I'm good with just an easy conversation. So project overview. Eastern Ontario Regional Network, under the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, applied for provincial and federal funding and were successful in being awarded an amount of money that we were able to tender out. So we did do a public tender. Rogers Communications was a successful proponent to our project. So we are working with Rogers in the expansion of this project. Through this project, we're looking to do upgrades to about 312 existing towers throughout Eastern Ontario. So what we're taking is the existing Rogers network and expanding that from LTE into 5G. So to give more data-rich abilities. Of that, about 213 of those sites are already completed now in the last 2 years. So we're well underway in that. We have 260 new sites that'll be built. So these are new macro tower sites that are being built throughout Eastern Ontario, and 74 sites that will have co-location. So in the co-location case, Rogers has applied to a Bell, a TELUS, a third party to be able to attach their new equipment onto their sites. We are targeting to be having this work completed by 2025. That is under the mandate of the Ministry of Infrastructure, MOI. And we are looking to meet or exceed our project goals. The last piece is, though, after the network's built, we do have a commitment to maintain and make sure that we have service level agreements in place for 5 years for performance and capacity. Benefits of this project for us here in Eastern Ontario, probably the biggest one is closing the gap. If you're driving around today, you'll notice, drop calls. We hear a lot about that. We are looking to close that to keep people connected, to allow for consistent communications while mobile or at the cottage. We're looking at increased capacity. So a lot of fiber is being placed through this project to the tower sites. That fiber will be used for the transport into these sites, but also has that ability for future expansion. We're looking at public safety for improved 911 calls in this area. That's been a highlight over the last number of months with a number of the recommendations that came out of the inquiry. So we are a big proponent supporter of the 911 services, and this program will allow for expanded 911 coverage. We're looking to improve the municipal services for the paramedics, the public works, etc. We talk often about the 5G and what you're able to do with that, especially in the paramedic services when we're looking at acute care en route. So if someone's injured at the ski hill and they need to get to the hospital, having that improved data capabilities will allow for just better connectivity and care between the paramedics and the hospitals. Improved tourism experience. A lot of people driving through here, coming out here for skiing or for the summer, so hiking, etc. We appreciate that. And the new towers will allow for the future deployment of the fixed wireless as the technology rolls out and changes. Our goals as a project, Our project goal is to have 99% of Eastern Ontario where people work, live, and travel on major roadways to be able to make a voice call. So it doesn't sound like it should be a huge task, but as you are aware, driving through a lot of our territory today, either due to the topography, the granite, whatever it may be, we have a number of areas where either due to density or lack of facilities, we're unable to make those calls. When we're finished this project, our goal is to have 99% of those areas covered. 95% coverage in those same areas with standard definition service levels. So for basic email, connectivity, browsing, social media, etc., we will be able to provide that. And 85% of Eastern Ontario, we will be looking to cover with high definition. So this is more along for the terms of video conferencing, movie streaming, and data intensive type of applications. This slide's a new one to me. I just saw it actually this morning. So this was one, when we come out here, get asked why we need to build so many towers. This is to help illustrate some of the challenges that we see if you're driving your vehicle throughout Eastern Ontario today. Today we may have coverage for voice, or there's gaps in that voice, but we will need to add towers into that network to be able to close those. So high definition, typically your footprint on that is not as large as it would be for a voice level type service. And therefore, for us to meet these objectives, we do need to introduce these towers. Next slide. This is our propagated map through Rogers on what we're looking to cover when the project is finished. The areas in red will be covered with our 99% voice coverage here. So still a few spots where there's no density or low density, a lot of parkland, crown land in those spaces that we are not currently covering under this propagation map. But when we're all said and done, we are 99% of our territory will be covered. The progression. So just a history of where we're at and where we've come to. So in January 2021, we started the duty to consult. This was, and again, coming into this was a learning process for sure. The amount of effort required through the duty to consult, which was given to us through the Crown, through our agreement with the province to consult with our First Nation partners. So we have 18 communities within Eastern Ontario, which we needed to consult with, to learn from. We came up with mitigation rules, agreements in place, et cetera, to do this. So that's taken us just over a year to get through most of that process. In March of 2021, we announced that Rogers had been successfully awarded the contract and we'd signed that with them. In September, we started the archaeological assessments, which was part of our duty to consult processes. So we actually hire archaeologists to go out to each of our brand new tower sites, the 260 of them, and they actually do a review of the sites, including breaking earth and seeing if there are artifacts. To date in Eastern Ontario, on the ones we've done, I believe we have 2 where we've actually found some artifacts of interest, and none of those in the Renfrew County area. In March, about 140 of our 300 sites have been upgraded. We have, that slide's a bit old now. We are over the 200 now, so we are making really, really good progress there. And as of March 2022, we had 6 started. We're closer to about 8 sites are finished now and in service, brand new sites. So we're making good progress. We had a bit of a slow start, but we are gaining traction there now. And then in November, we did our first announcement with the federal and provincial government in United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry. So it was a very successful event, the first one for us, so we're very proud of that. And we now have currently 112 new sites that are actually released for Rogers to start construction on. So again, making good progress. Just some information around the First Nation consultations. So we are consulting with the Indigenous communities and organizations across Eastern Ontario. As I said, there's 18 of them. We work very closely with Pikwakagon. Our relationship there has gone very well. A lot of learnings both sides, so it's been very positive for us. really looking to understand and respect their input. It's critical for us to understand what's going on as we're doing this, learning about snag trees or the other impacts that these towers may have and how we can try to minimize our environmental impact on those. URN and the OWC, we believe in the benefit of the project must extend to all the communities, municipal, Indigenous in Eastern Ontario, and our consultation will follow up through this entire project. So we have an open invitation with our partners to ensure that they're part of the discussions that are ongoing as well as the construction. Slide here, step in construction. So just for familiarity, the timeline it takes. Now, we have made very good progress in Greater Madawaska and Renfrew counties. We are seeing a positive trend, but we always like to just help people be aware that from the time it comes to the municipality until we actually can get shovels in the ground or until the tower is up, it does take some time. So just on the steps of this. So if we looked at the evolution of a tower build, first place is for Rogers or your proponent to be able to go out and find a property that meets the network standards or network footprint. Typically these areas are fairly tight as far as the way the network is designed. Each of the towers are placed in there so that they can communicate with the other ones, so we create a full network. So there are some challenges in there. We also have a number of challenges once it comes to securing property with property or landlords. The idea of a tower in your backyard is not always the most favorable thing. So there are some challenges in there to find a willing landlord that's willing to work with us to be able to build these towers. Once we have that in place, we negotiate that lease. That can take a little bit of time. With our duty to consult, we do conduct the archaeological assessments of stage 1 and 2 and a natural heritage assessment for each of the proposed sites. So in this case here in Eastern Ontario, we're looking at 260 of these that we are in the midst of performing. We follow the land use authority, the LUA process within the municipality. So again, Greater Madawaska has been a very successful discussion and process with us. So we appreciate the support and the partnership to move these forwards. Once we have that, we notify the province the site is ready to proceed, and then site preparation starts. So within that can take up to 18 months from that process to start. So not a quick thing for turnaround. Which was when we look at a 2025 completion time, it's very tight for us in timelines. On the financial contribution and breakdowns, the project itself, we have over $300 million of investment in Eastern Ontario through this project. The Government of Ontario is investing $71 million. The Government of Canada is about $71 million as well. And the EOWC and the EOMC, so the Mayor's Caucus, have contributed just over $10 million each. And then within this, Rogers Communications itself has committed a minimum investment of $150 million. So a very aggressive contribution on their behalf to be able to make this project a success. In Renfrew itself, the county contributed just over $900,000, $906,000. Towards the project. So we are working on a ROI review just to understand what that's going to look like at the end of it. And we are hoping won't be in the next year, but we will be sharing that information with yourselves and with the county in the near future. One of the things we are proud of here, though, is from a administrative cost. When you look at project management through the Eastern Ontario Regional Network and the model we have in place, we're about 6% of PM costs. So from a project cost, that's fairly competitive. It's typically they can run between 10 and 12%. So we are pretty proud of the fact that we are a very lean, tight group that's doing this. And I will say we are able to do that with a lot of partnerships with the municipalities and with the counties has made it successful. So the next steps here, so we are ramping up. Spring's coming a little sooner this year than we anticipated, but construction will ramp up here quickly. You'll start seeing more shovels in the ground. We have we're driving towards that 312 existing towers, the upgrades to be completed. We've hit a few tower challenges, but we expect to be pretty close to that number before the end of the year. Site acquisitions will continue. Land use authority process will continue. And the consultations with the First Nations and the archaeological assessments will continue throughout this year. We are looking for opportunities for public announcements for all the new builds, and Lisa Severinson, who sends her regrets, she was hoping to be here today because she loves being at these meetings, will set that up. I believe Allison, she'll be in touch with you as well, just to look at dates and things. So So lots of exciting things going on in the county and through the project. Any questions?
Councillor Thompson?
When will the Greater Madawaska Towers be built? Will it be this year or next, do you know?
So there will be some information regarding that in the closed session. Eorn's not at liberty to discuss that publicly yet. But once they are available, that's the public announcements that Mr. St. Pierre was referring to.
Yeah, we will hopefully be able to make those soon.
Just in case there's a delay.
Yes, yeah, well, yes, that is true.
Any other questions? Councillor Levesque?
Just a question around, you refer to data or rather voice communication. Is it expected that the internet's going to also travel across that as well?
So the scope of our project in the agreement with the province and the federal government is for voice and mobile data coverage. The technology that would be introduced has the potential to offer that if Rogers has a business case within their own to make that available.
And is internet planned beyond that at this point?
That might have to go into close.
Okay, that's fine, thank you. And then about the communication plan, like you're here, and thank you for that. What's the communication plan in terms of like our constituents? Because a lot of people do ask us about it. Will it be proactive, or is it something that we would request in terms of the plan and updates and things like that?
No, and that's part of our coming out here today, is to introduce ourselves again, or reintroduce ourselves again, to make ourselves available. But I will I'll leave my card here, and Lisa as well is very, very quick to get back to you if you have questions. Our goal here is to try to keep you as updated as what's going on. There's nothing worse than somebody calling you saying, hey, I'm in the corner of Spruce and Goose and what's going on. We would prefer you to be aware of, hey, we've broken ground, and if you get calls, this is what it's for.
Right.
So we will definitely leave you some contacts in case we miss that, but our goal here is to try to keep the municipalities as updated as possible on what's happening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns at this time? Nope. Well, thank you so much for the update, and don't go far.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll move into a closed session that the council meeting of February 16th, 2023 at 4:39 p.m. enter into a closed session pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act regarding a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which if disclosed could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group, or persons or organization. A, Eorn, B, Bell, the purpose of educating or training the members. A, expropriation. B, procedural bylaw.
Do we have a mover to move into close? Councillor Tripp, second. Councillor Thompson, all in favor to move into close? Carried.
That the council meeting of February 16th, 2023 move back into open session at 5:47 PM.
Do we have a mover? Counselor Levesque, seconder, Counselor Tripp. All in favor? Unanimous?
That council instructs the following as the closed meeting item: a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. A, Eorn, which is was an information item. B, Bell, which is also an information item. The purpose of training or educating the members. A, expropriation was an information item, and B, procedural bylaw is being deferred until March regular council meeting.
Do we have a mover? Counselor Thompson, second. Counselor Levesque, all in favor? Unanimous, passed.
Be it resolved that the following bylaws, 11-2023 zoning bylaw amendment 2306.1, Republic of Buckistan, 12-2023 zoning bylaw amendment to lift holding symbol talk, 13-2023 remuneration of appointed officials and employees, 14-2023 operating and capital budget estimates, 16-2023 fire services be deemed read a second and final time and passed by council, and furthermore that 15-2023 confirmatory be deemed read a first, second, and final time and passed by council at the regular council meeting of February 16th, 2023.
Do we have a mover? We have Counselor Thompson, second. Counselor Tripp, all in favor? Unanimous?
That the regular council meeting of February 16th be adjourned at 5:49 PM.
All in favor? Counselor Thompson, second. Counselor Levesque, all in favor?